Okay. Hello, everyone. This is my presentation on semiconductor testing. The importance of semiconductor testing, obviously, this is important as many of our devices nowadays need good silicon running. So every step of the process needs to be thoroughly tested and rigorously watched. So this can be done with several different forms of automatic test equipment, one of which is what our project is focused on. Automatic test equipment are systems that are designed to perform tests on semiconductor devices. They simulate real-world scenarios that the chip would encounter. There's this idea between a wafer test or package test, wafer test being specifically tests on the wafer versus a package test, which happens later in its life cycle. Then there's a semiconductor backend process where the process is made with the front end. This kind of goes back to the last one where there's the front end testing and then the back end packaging testing. So there's two whole parts of semiconductor fab, which is packaging and the front end more stuff. All right, so here's the timeline of up to testing. There are wafer preparation phases. The process begins with a silicon wafer. Wafers are sliced into the little discs you see on in documentaries and stuff. Then there's a deposition phase, which gives you little thin films of semiconductor materials to let the first layer get printed. Then there's the coating that's put on it, the light sensitive coating. And then there's a positive and a negative old film strategies there, where you have the positive and negative surfaces. Then there's the lithography, which is the process where it determines how small a semiconductor actually can be. The 7 nanometer width is what's searched for, or that's the bare minimum. That size is what's happening in this step. And then after the lithography process, the etching happens and the pattern wafer is subjected to this etching, which removes exposed parts of the layer of the wafer. Then there's doping and metallization, which is just more finishing steps, where you put metal and other materials on the silicon to make it work. The passivation as well is another protective layer that is more for fingers and end users and stuff like that. You shouldn't be touching it with your fingers, but ideally, this would be the last line of defense. And then there's actual packaging and testing at the end. So obviously testing happens throughout the process, but final package testing happens after that. Finally, let's go over the testing stages. So there are wafer acceptance tests, which are kind of stat sheets that the end user of the silicon can look at and see how well the silicon performed. There's a sort test to kind of, because that's a bit of a lottery of which silicon is better than others. So this is how they sort that. Then there's a burn-in test. This is electrical testing while it's still in wafer form. This is the kind of thing that we're programming and working on how to do. Then there's package testing, which we're not as focused on, but it's still important. It's the final product getting tested. And there's a couple other tests, like burn-in tests and system level tests, which are super important, but I do not have time to go over here. And here are my citations. Thank you so much for sitting through with me. I appreciate it.